When Marco returns home, he is shocked to find Mario in the room with his girlfriend. Naturally, he questions them. His girlfriend calmly explains that Mario was unable to sleep because he was having frightening nightmares, so she let him stay beside her. Although the explanation sounds simple, Marco immediately understands what kind of man Mario really is, a shameless flirt who takes advantage of situations. Even then, Marco doesn't react strongly, mainly because he himself isn't deeply serious about his relationship. During World War II, Marco chooses to leave everything behind and moves to Switzerland to avoid being involved in the war. When the war finally ends, he returns to Italy, but he comes back with no clear purpose or direction in life. He owns a small boat, and instead of settling down, he lives on it, drifting across places as if the entire world is his home. His life is uncertain, free, and somewhat lonely. One day, when Marco goes out to get rations, he is refused. Already struggling, this makes things worse for him. On the same street, however, a wealthy man named Mario notices him. Mario sees that Marco is troubled and decides to help. He goes to the shopkeeper and tries to convince him, but the shopkeeper refuses to give anything. Even after failing, Mario doesn't lose interest in Marco. There is something about him that keeps Mario curious. Mario approaches Marco and begins asking about his boat and his life. Marco explains how he lives on the boat and moves from place to place, making every new location his temporary home. Their conversation flows easily, and Mario quickly forms a connection with him. Soon, he insists that Marco come along to his house. Although hesitant at first, Marco eventually agrees. When they arrive, Marco is stunned. Mario's house is enormous, more like a palace than a home. Mario casually reveals that he received the mansion as part of a dowry, and that his wife, Mary Faye, is actually the true owner of the property. As soon as they step inside, Mario openly admits that he does not like his wife. This immediately creates a sense of tension. Marco then meets Barbara, a young widow. The moment he sees her, he is captivated. There is something deeply and fragile about her. At the same time, he begins to understand more about Mario, how he lives under his wife's control, and how he often lies to cover up his actions. During dinner, the tension in the house becomes obvious. A heated argument breaks out between Mario and Mary. It is revealed that Mario has been away from home for 10 years, supposedly because of the war. But the truth is far less honorable. He is a careless, pleasure-loving man who spends his time wandering and indulging himself rather than taking responsibility. Mary knows everything about him, which is why she keeps a constant and strict watch over him. In this household, Mary is clearly the one in charge. No decision happens without her control. As the conversation continues, the topic shifts to Barbara's husband, who has not returned from the war for 10 long years. It is revealed that Barbara was married and the very next day, her husband left for war. Since then, she has been left waiting, living a life that feels incomplete and restricted. Because of this situation, Mary keeps an extremely close eye on Barbara, almost as if she is a prisoner. Barbara lives in the house like a servant, despite her beauty and youth. Marco cannot bear to see her like this. The more he observes her, the stronger his feelings become. He begins to imagine taking her away from this place, to somewhere far, where she can live freely and where he can be with her. Once dinner is over, he takes Marco to a special room in the mansion. This room once belonged to Mary's great-uncle, a bishop. Marco learns a strange and somewhat dark story about this bishop. It is said that the bishop used to secretly visit the village to meet his lover. Mario offers this very room to Marco for the night. Later that night, Barbara comes into the room to prepare his bed. Marco is already lost in his thoughts about her. Seeing her up close only deepens his attraction. She may live like a servant, but her beauty and presence are impossible to ignore. Gathering courage, Marco tries to start a conversation with her, hoping to get closer. But just as the moment begins to build, Mario suddenly walks back into the room, interrupting everything. After talking for a while, Mario also leaves and goes back to his room to sleep. Later that night, while Marco is lying in bed, he hears faint noises coming from the next room. Curious and unable to ignore them, he quietly gets up and follows the sound. From where he stands, he can clearly see into Barbara's room. Inside, Barbara is standing in front of a mirror, softly admiring her beauty and lost in her own reflection. Watching her like this, Marco feels a stronger pull toward her, and his desire to have her grows deeper. At the same time, Barbara remains completely unaware that someone is watching her. The next morning, Marco has to leave, even though he doesn't really want to. As he prepares to sail away on his boat, Mario suddenly asks if he would like to go out to the lake together. Marco agrees, and after some time, they both reach the lakeside. They go for a swim, freshen up, and then spend quite a while moving around the lake. After wandering for some time, Marco suddenly notices his girlfriend there. He immediately runs toward her and hugs her. Watching this, Mario becomes noticeably excited. However, before Marco comes back, Mario quickly pretends as if he hasn't seen anything at all. Afterward, Marco hurriedly takes out his girlfriend girlfriend's address from his diary and takes Mario along to her house. At the house, her friend is also present. Mario repeatedly tries to flirt with her. Even though he has grown old, he still believes he is young and refuses to accept his age. Without hesitation, he tries to get close to the girl, but she quickly runs back to her friend. Soon, dinner is prepared. Marco's girlfriend starts dancing with Mario, and after dancing for a while, they get tired and sit down to drink. During this time, Mario notices that the friend is alone in another room. Taking advantage of the moment, he quietly goes into her room and tries to charm her. However, the girl gets angry at his behavior. Because of this, the situation becomes uncomfortable, and they are forced to leave immediately. The next day, Marco invites both girls onto his boat. All four of them spend time together and enjoy themselves freely. It becomes clear that after many years of leaving the army, this is one of the rare moments in Mario's life where he truly feels happy and relaxed. Thinking about this, he becomes emotional. That same evening, all four of them sit together by the lakeside, talking about their lives and sharing personal things with each other. They stay there for some time, but suddenly the weather changes. A strong storm arrives, followed by heavy rain. Everyone quickly gathers their belongings and rushes back to the boat, trying to leave as fast as possible. However, because of the storm, controlling the boat becomes difficult. Marco's girlfriend is holding onto the rope, and in that moment, Mario quietly moves closer to her, taking advantage of the situation. After some time, the storm calms down, and they safely reach the girlfriend's house. Marco asks her to come along with him, but Mario interferes and convinces him that he is too tired to continue. Because of this, Marco leaves alone on his boat and heads back toward the lake. As he returns, Marco notices Barbara standing near a window. Seeing this as the perfect opportunity, he signals to her. Barbara understands and invites him over. When Marco reaches Mario's house, he is surprised to see Mario's wife asking about him. Marco is forced to make an excuse, but Mary becomes angry and tells him to bring Mario back immediately before walking away. Barbara is still standing there. Before leaving, she quietly blows a kiss toward Marco and then walks away. When Marco returns home, he finds Mario in the room with his girlfriend. When he asks about it, his girlfriend tells him that Mario couldn't sleep because he was having nightmares, so she let him stay with her. From this, Marco clearly understands that Mario is a shameless and flirtatious man. Still, it doesn't affect Marco much because he isn't very serious about his girlfriend. After spending a few days living on Marco's boat, Mario returns to his own house. He had gone away with Marco without informing his wife, Mary, and now he doesn't want to face her. Because of this, he hesitates to go home. However, from a distance, he looks at his house through binoculars. Mario immediately decides to go back home. Meanwhile, Marco stays there and tries to talk to Barbara, but Barbara cannot say much in front of Mary. Mario quietly goes and sits in a corner, humiliated. Marco is present there and watches all of this. At that moment, the gardener tells Marco that Mario is a very low and immoral man who has even thought about behaving inappropriately with his daughter. He also says that he has already warned Mario. If he ever looks at his daughter with bad intentions, he will teach him a lesson. After being insulted like this, Mario starts crying and doesn't understand what to do. Meanwhile, Mary is explaining household work to Barbara, but Barbara's attention is on Marco and Marco's attention is on her. Because of Mary's presence, they cannot say anything to each other, but Marco signals to her that he wants to meet at midnight. Mario is watching all of this from a distance. At midnight, when Marco is lying in his room, he hears someone at the door. He thinks it might be Barbara, but when he opens the door, he is disappointed. It is Mario. Mario tells him that he and Barbara love each other, but because of his wife Mary, they cannot be together. So he requests Marco to let Barbara come onto his boat. He also asks Marco to invite his girlfriend so that Barbara can have company. Mario says that he knows Marco and Barbara are attracted to each other, but asks him as a friend to help him so that they can all enjoy together. Marco agrees to his plan. The next day, as promised, Marco brings Barbara onto the boat. Mario tries to charm her, but Barbara's attention remains on Marco. After some time, Marco's girlfriend Jenny also arrives, and now there are 4 people on the boat. The 4 of them then head toward another place. After a while, they reach a market where Barbara and Jenny buy some things for themselves. At the same time, Mario also goes into the market to buy something. On the other side, Mario books a hotel room for himself and Barbara, planning to stay there with her that night. Meanwhile, Marco is also on the boat with his girlfriend, but he is unable to sleep. Restless, he steps out late at night and starts walking through the city streets. While wandering around, he notices a man who looks exactly like Mario. The man is riding a bicycle very fast, heading somewhere in a hurry. However, Marco doesn't pay much attention to it at that moment. The next day, while everyone is having a meal at a restaurant, a police officer arrives and delivers shocking news to Mario. His wife Mary has died. Strangely, neither Mario nor Barbara seems deeply affected by her death. The police begin investigating the case, and during the investigation, they find a letter written by Mario to his wife. In that letter, Mario mentions his love for Barbara. A few days later, Mario and Barbara get married and begin their married life together, while Marco moves forward with his own life. By now, he has broken up with his girlfriend. One day, Marco visits Mario and Barbara at their house. There, he notices that their relationship is not going well. At one point, when Mario steps out for a while, Barbara tells Marco that she believes Marco admits that he has had the same suspicion because on that night he saw a man who looked exactly like Mario riding a bicycle. It is possible that Mario returned home that night. A few days later, an unexpected man arrives at Mario's house. It turns out to be Barbara's husband, John, who has been missing for the past 10 years. Everyone is shocked to see him. However, he explains that he hasn't come for Barbara, but because he heard about his sister's death. He reveals that he had been in contact with his sister through letters, and she knew he was alive but kept it a secret. He further explains that during the war, he was captured by enemies, which is why he never returned home. However, the news of his sister's death forced him to come back. John insists that his sister promised to meet him soon and had written in her last letter that she wanted to remove Mario from her house. With this new information, the case takes a new turn, and the police reopen the investigation. Marco tells John that he saw Mario riding somewhere in a hurry that night. With the help of the police, Marco also reaches the man who had rented the bicycle to Mario. Based on this witness and new evidence, overwhelmed with shame, Mario asks the police for some time. A few days after this incident, John transfers all his property to Barbara's name and tells her that he will never return, as he has started a business abroad and is living his life there. After saying goodbye, he leaves. Marco and Barbara finally come close to each other. Barbara wants to marry Marco and spend the rest of her life with him, but Marco refuses. He returns to his boat, unsure whether the man he saw on the bicycle that night was really Mario. He also realizes that he gave a statement to the police based on Barbara's words. Because of this doubt, he begins to suspect that Barbara might have been behind everything. In the end, Marco says goodbye to her forever and sails away.